Captain Daniel Murphy stood at the viewport of the TES Defiant, watching the alien ship approach. The massive vessel dwarfed his own, its silver hull reflecting Jupiter's glow in the distance. After centuries of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. "They're requesting permission to dock, Captain," said Lieutenant Kate Wright, her voice steady despite the historic moment. "Granted," Murphy replied, "and alert Admiral Bennett that our guests have arrived." The Terran Empire had unified Earth and its colonies across the solar system just 30 years ago. They had barely established outposts on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn when the alien transmission had arrived, announcing the Vraxian hegemony's intention to establish diplomatic relations. Murphy smoothed down his uniform and checked his reflection in a nearby console. The first human to formally meet representatives of an alien civilization. His mother would have been proud. "Intel report, Officer Summers," he requested. Eric Summers, the ship's intelligence officer, looked up from his station. "The ship's design matches nothing in our database, sir. Energy readings suggest technology well beyond our capabilities. Weapon systems appear inactive, but their potential output is concerning." "Let's hope they come in peace, then," Murphy said, forcing a smile. The docking procedure took 20 minutes. Murphy used the time to review the first contact protocols established by Terran Command. The delegation would be escorted to the Jupiter station, where Admiral Laura Bennett awaited with the official welcome party. "Captain, they're ready," Wright announced. Murphy nodded and headed to the airlock, Wright and Summers following close behind. The airlock cycled open to reveal 3 tall, slender beings. Their skin was pale blue with iridescent patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Large, multifaceted eyes regarded the humans with an intelligence that Murphy found immediately unsettling. "Welcome aboard the TES Defiant," Murphy said. "I am Captain Daniel Murphy, representing the Terran Empire." The tallest of the aliens stepped forward. "I am High Counselor Zev Ta of the Vraxian hegemony. We bring greetings from the 27 civilizations of our alliance." Its voice had an odd musical quality, translated through a device worn at what Murphy assumed was its throat. "We are honored," Murphy replied. "We've prepared transportation to our station where our leadership awaits you." Zev Ta inclined its head. "We look forward to productive discussions. The addition of humanity to the galactic community is a momentous occasion." As Murphy led the delegation through the ship, he noticed how the aliens studied everything with intense focus. Summers caught his eye, giving a subtle nod that confirmed he'd noticed too. On the station orbiting Jupiter, Admiral Bennett welcomed the Vraxians with formal ceremony. Dr. Alan Garcia, the station's xenobiologist, was introduced to collect biological data with the aliens' permission. "We come offering friendship and knowledge," Zev Ta announced to the assembled Terran officials. "Our hegemony has brought peace and prosperity to many worlds." Admiral Bennett, a decorated veteran with a reputation for caution, smiled diplomatically. "We have much to learn from each other, High Counselor." Later, in a private meeting room, Bennett gathered with Murphy, Wright, and Summers. "Impressions?" she asked. "They're hiding something," Summers said immediately. "Their questions were too specific about our defense capabilities and colony populations." "I agree," Wright added. "Their body language, if we can call it that, changed when discussing their peaceful alliance." Murphy nodded. "They're analyzing us, Admiral. This feels more like an assessment than a friendly visit." Bennett looked out at the alien ship through the window. "Then we'll do the same. Captain, I want your team to be our primary liaison with the Vraxians. Learn everything you can." As the meeting concluded, Dr. Garcia entered, his face pale. "Admiral, you need to see this," he said, activating a display. "I've been analyzing samples from their ship's exterior. These microstructures aren't decorative. They're weapon delivery systems, biological weapons designed to target specific DNA sequences." "Human DNA?" Murphy asked. Garcia nodded slowly. "And they're already calibrated for our genetic makeup. They've been studying us for a long time before making contact. Bennett's expression hardened. Then we'll proceed with extreme caution. The Terran Empire won't be caught unprepared, whatever their true intentions may be. 3 months had passed since the Vraxians made first contact. Captain Daniel Murphy stood in the secure briefing room of Terran Fleet Command on Earth, staring at the evidence displayed on the wall screens. Each image and report confirmed his worst fears. "They've been watching us for decades," said Director Olivia Parker of Terran Intelligence. Her normally composed face showed signs of stress as she swiped through more files. "We found their surveillance devices on every major colony. Some date back 20 years. Admiral Bennett nodded grimly. "And now we know why they came to us so suddenly." Murphy studied the images of 4 other alien species, all now under Vraxian control. These civilizations, they all followed the same pattern. "Yes," Parker confirmed. "First came diplomatic relations, then trade agreements that seemed beneficial. Finally, military cooperation that effectively handed control to the hegemony. Those who resisted were crushed." Lieutenant Wright pointed to one image. "The Centauri were the most recent. Their technology was only slightly behind ours. And now they're mining slaves," Summers added. "Their military dismantled, their government replaced with Vraxian overseers." Murphy felt a chill. For 3 months, Ambassador Zevta had been proposing increasingly intrusive cooperation agreements. The Vraxian diplomat maintained a friendly demeanor, but the pressure grew with each meeting. "We have a problem on Mars," Parker said, changing the display. "Engineer Frank Martinez has developed a new shield technology that might match Vraxian capabilities. We think they know about it." "How?" Bennett demanded. "Their spies are good," Parker replied. "Martinez's lab showed signs of intrusion last week. His wife Nicole, the quantum physicist, reported strange data patterns in their system." Murphy leaned forward. "We need to protect them. The Vraxians eliminate technological threats first." "Already handled," Bennett said. "I've ordered a special team to extract both scientists. Lieutenant Wright will lead the operation." Wright nodded. "We leave in 6 hours." On the screen, a new image appeared. A massive Vraxian warship entering the solar system. 5 more followed behind it. "They're moving faster than we expected," Parker said quietly. "These ships weren't part of their diplomatic fleet." Bennett's face hardened. "Captain Murphy, I want you to take the Defiant to Proxima Centauri. See what happened to our colony there, and find out what the Vraxians did to the native Centauri civilization. And if we encounter Vraxian forces," Murphy asked, "avoid conflict if possible. We need information more than we need a battle right now." Later that day, Murphy prepared his ship for departure. The Defiant had been upgraded with experimental stealth technology that might keep them hidden from Vraxian sensors. "Captain," Summers called as Murphy entered the bridge. "You need to see this transmission." On the main screen, Frank Martinez appeared. The engineer looked nervous, working in what appeared to be an underground lab. "The Vraxians attacked my facility on Mars," he reported. "They were after my shield designs. Luckily, Lieutenant Wright's team got us out minutes before they arrived." The camera panned to show Nicole Martins working on complex equations behind him. "We're safe in the Europa facility," Frank continued, "and we've made a breakthrough. The Vraxian shields have a weakness at specific frequencies. We can penetrate them if we modulate our weapons correctly." Murphy felt a surge of hope. "Tell them to send the specifications to the Defiant. We might need this technology where we're going." As the Defiant prepared to leave Earth orbit, Murphy watched Vraxian ships taking positions throughout the solar system. On Earth below, President John Harrison addressed the Empire, calling for unity and cooperation with their new galactic neighbors. The public didn't know yet what the Terran leadership had discovered. They didn't know that while Ambassador Zevtas smiled and offered friendship, Vraxian warships were quietly moving into strategic positions. "Course set for Proxima Centauri," the navigator announced. Murphy took one last look at Earth. Engage stealth systems. Let's find out what we're really dealing with. The Defiant slipped away from Earth, invisible to Vraxian sensors, carrying humanity's hopes for understanding the threat they faced before it was too late. Ambassador Zevta stood before the Terran Council, its blue skin gleaming under the chamber lights. The room was silent as the alien diplomat activated a holographic display showing a massive fleet of Vraxian warships. The hegemony has been patient, Zevta said, its musical voice now carrying an edge of steel. We have allowed your species time to understand the benefits of joining our alliance. That time has ended. President John Harrison leaned forward in his seat. We appreciate the hegemony's interest in Earth, Ambassador, but we've made no decision about joining your alliance. That is why I am here today. Zevta's multifaceted eyes swept across the human leaders. The Vraxian hegemony presents the Terran Empire with a choice. Join us as a client state, or face extinction. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Admiral Bennett's face remained stone-like as the ambassador continued. You have 30 days to surrender all military assets, accept Vraxian oversight of your technology development, and begin providing resources and labor for hegemony projects. Zevta displayed images of Vraxian weapons destroying entire planets. This is not a negotiation. It is mercy. After the ambassador left, the council erupted into argument. Some members advocated immediate surrender to save lives. Others demanded resistance at any cost. President Harrison called for order. Admiral Bennett, what are our chances if we fight? Bennett stood. Slim, Mr. President, but not zero. Captain Murphy's mission to Proxima Centauri has provided valuable intelligence, and the Martinez shield technology shows promise. Then we need time, Harrison decided. We'll pretend to consider their terms while preparing for war. General Steve Coleman, head of Terran Ground Forces, nodded in agreement. I can begin secret mobilization today. The Vraxians are watching our official channels, but we can use old-fashioned methods to spread the word. What about civilian protection? Asked the counselor. Lieutenant Wright is already coordinating with colony leaders, Bennett replied. Essential personnel are being moved to hardened shelters. The Martinez couple and other key scientists are working around the clock in the Europa facility. Later that day, Captain Murphy reported to Admiral Bennett in a secure underground bunker on Earth. Proxima Centauri was eye-opening, Murphy said, his face grim as he shared footage of the once thriving colony world. The Vraxians stripped their military completely. They left basic planetary defenses intact, just enough to protect the mining operations from pirates or rival species. And the people? Bennett asked. Working as forced labor, but here's the important part. The Vraxians follow patterns. Their ships have tactical weaknesses. Their ground forces are powerful, but slow to adapt to unexpected strategies. Murphy displayed technical data. We can fight them, Admiral. It won't be easy, but we can fight. Bennett nodded. Get back to the Defiant. I'm giving you our newest weapons prototypes based on the Martinez research. You'll lead the first strike when the time comes. Across the solar system, Lieutenant Wright arrived at the Europa facility with her team. The underwater base, hidden beneath the moon's thick ice, hummed with activity as scientists worked frantically to develop weapons against the Vraxian threat. Lieutenant. Frank Martinez greeted her, excitement in his eyes despite the dark circles suggesting days without sleep. We've done it. The shield modulation works. His wife Nicole nodded, brushing back her hair. We tested it against Vraxian weapon signatures. Our shields can now absorb 70% of their energy blasts. It's not perfect, but it gives us a fighting chance. Wright smiled. That's all humanity has ever needed. As the 30-day deadline approached, President Harrison addressed the Empire in a carefully worded speech. He spoke of friendship between species and careful consideration of the Vraxian offer. What he didn't mention was the massive military buildup happening in secret bases throughout the solar system. Public opinion remained divided. Some citizens held protests demanding immediate surrender to avoid destruction. Others formed volunteer defense forces, preparing to fight house by house if necessary. In the darkness of space, Captain Murphy's Defiant and a dozen other ships waited in stealth mode, their weapons primed with the new Martinez technology. They watched Vraxian ships take positions around Earth, ready to enforce their ultimatum when the deadline arrived. The countdown to humanity's most important decision continued. Surrender or fight. Slavery or potential extinction. No one knew which path would lead to survival. 5 days before the ultimatum deadline, the science vessel TES Discovery orbited Saturn, collecting data on the planet's rings. The ship's crew of 89 scientists and support staff had been carefully chosen for their expertise in various fields. Among them was Dr. William Davis, whose medical research had saved millions of lives across the Terran Empire. The Discovery's captain spotted it first, a Vraxian warship approaching at high speed. "This is a peaceful research mission," she broadcast. "We are conducting authorized scientific studies." No response came from the alien vessel. Instead, a bright beam of energy shot forth, cutting through the Discovery like paper. The ship broke apart, spilling its crew into the cold vacuum of space. In seconds, all 89 humans were dead. News of the attack spread across the Empire within hours. Admiral Bennett watched the footage in grim silence alongside President Harrison and the Terran Council. "They claimed the Discovery was scanning their ships," Bennett said. A lie, of course. The Discovery had no military scanning equipment. Harrison's face was pale with anger. "Dr. Davis was aboard that ship. His cancer treatments saved my daughter's life." Across Earth and its colonies, people gathered around screens showing the destroyed vessel. Protests against surrender transformed into demands for justice. Citizens who had advocated peace now called for war. The death of Dr. Davis, whose face was known in homes throughout the Empire, had turned public opinion overnight. Captain Murphy received the news aboard the Defiant, where his crew prepared for battle. "This changes everything," he told Lieutenant Wright. "We can't wait any longer." "Captain," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Proxima Centauri. It's from the Resistance." The message confirmed what Murphy had suspected. The Vraxians systematically disarmed client species, but left enough defenses to protect valuable mining operations from outside threats. This pattern created a potential weakness in their empire. At the Europa facility, Frank and Nickel Martinez worked frantically to finish their shield modifications. Their breakthrough came at midnight Earth time. "It works," Frank shouted, watching test results flood his screen. "Full integration with our weapons systems. We can penetrate their shields while protecting our ships." Nickel smiled for the first time in days. "We need to get this to Admiral Bennett immediately." President Harrison called an emergency session of the Council. As they gathered, Ambassador Zevtar requested an audience, likely to address the destruction of the Discovery. "Let the ambassador wait," Harrison ordered. "We have a decision to make." The Council voted unanimously. For the first time in its history, the Terran Empire would go to war. Harrison addressed the Empire that evening, his voice steady and resolute. "Today, we reject the Vraxian ultimatum," he announced. "We have discovered the truth about the hegemony. They are not benevolent allies but conquerors who have enslaved multiple species. They offered us the choice between surrender and extinction. We offer a third option: resistance." He revealed the Vraxians' history of conquest and their destruction of the Discovery. "We will not bow to threats. We will not surrender our freedom. The Terran Empire stands ready to defend itself and all free people in our corner of the galaxy." As Harrison spoke, Frank and Nickel Martinez appeared beside him. "We have developed technology that gives us a fighting chance," Frank explained. "The Vraxians are strong, but not invincible." Throughout the solar system, Terran military forces moved into position. Admiral Bennett placed the fleet on high alert as Vraxian ships began forming attack formations. Ambassador Zebta, watching the broadcast from the diplomatic quarters, activated a communication device. The humans have rejected our terms, it reported to the hegemony leadership, commenced the extinction protocol. But the Vraxians had miscalculated. They expected fear and compliance. They expected surrender or a desperate, disorganized defense. They did not expect what was coming: a humanity united in purpose, armed with new technology, and burning with righteous anger. The Terran Empire was ready for war, and they would strike first. The Vraxians expected humanity to wait, to react defensively once the ultimatum expired. They did not expect humans to strike first. Captain Murphy stood on the bridge of the TES Defiant, now equipped with stealth technology developed by Dr. Helen Wright, Lieutenant Kate Wright's mother. The ship moved silently through space, invisible to Vraxian sensors. "All systems ready, Captain," Lieutenant Wright reported. "The Martinez shields are fully operational." Murphy nodded. "All ships maintain stealth approach. Target the command vessel on my mark." A small fleet of Terran ships followed the Defiant, each hidden from enemy detection. Their target: the massive Vraxian command ship in Earth orbit, where Ambassador Zevta coordinated the planned invasion. "We're in range," the weapons officer announced. Murphy took a deep breath. For the Discovery. Fire. The Defiant's new weapons cut through space, striking the Vraxian vessel before its shields could fully activate. The other Terran ships followed suit, concentrating their fire on critical systems. The Vraxian command ship, 3 times larger than any Terran vessel, erupted in flames as the Martinez technology penetrated its defenses. The massive alien vessel tried to return fire, but its targeting systems couldn't lock onto the stealth-equipped Terran ships. Meanwhile, across the solar system, Colonel Jason Ford led Special Forces teams in lightning strikes against Vraxian communications relays. These small, elite units had trained for weeks using data from Murphy's Proxima Centauri mission. "Team Alpha in position at the Mercury relay," Ford reported. "Charges set. Team Beta ready at Mars relay," came another voice. "Team Delta at Titan relay, standing by." Admiral Bennett, coordinating from a hidden command center beneath the lunar surface, gave the order. "Execute." Throughout the solar system, Vraxian communication points exploded simultaneously. The invaders, suddenly unable to coordinate their forces, found themselves isolated and vulnerable. The Vraxian response was chaotic. Their military doctrine relied heavily on central command, a weakness the humans exploited perfectly. Vraxian ships, unable to communicate with each other, either held position or attacked individual targets without coordination. First wave successful, Murphy reported as the Vraxian command ship broke apart. Moving to Phase 2. Admiral Bennett deployed the main Terran fleet from hidden positions behind Mars and Jupiter's moons. The ships, all upgraded with the Martinez technology, engaged the disorganized Vraxian vessels. "This is Admiral Bennett to all Terran forces. Push them out of our system." The battle was fierce. Vraxian weapons still caused heavy damage when they hit their targets. 3 major Terran warships were destroyed, and Mars colony defenses took heavy damage from a desperate Vraxian counterattack. But the human victory was decisive. The Martinez shields proved remarkably effective, absorbing most of the energy from Vraxian weapons. By the battle's end, over 60% of the Vraxian force had been destroyed or disabled. Murphy watched from the Defiance bridge as the remaining Vraxian ships retreated toward the edge of the solar system. "We did it," Wright said, disbelief in her voice. "We actually beat them." "This battle, yes," Murphy replied. "But the war has just begun." On Earth, crowds celebrated in the streets as news of the victory spread. President Harrison addressed the Empire again, cautioning that this was only the first engagement in what would likely be a long conflict. Among the wreckage of the Vraxian command ship, Terran recovery teams found Ambassador Zevta, injured but alive. The ambassador was brought to a secure facility for questioning. "You have made a grave mistake," Zevta told its captors, multifaceted eyes glittering with hatred. "The full might of the hegemony will descend upon your species. This attack will not be forgotten or forgiven. Admiral Bennett viewed the interrogation remotely. How much time do we have before their reinforcements arrive? General Coleman studied the intelligence reports. 6 months at best. They'll come with a force 10 times what we just defeated. Bennett nodded grimly. Then we have 6 months to prepare. Every shipyard in the system needs to be producing warships equipped with the Martinez technology. We've won the battle for our home. Now we need to get ready for the real war. Across the solar system, humanity began to mobilize on a scale never before seen in its history. The Terran Empire was on the warpath. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, as humans now called it, the Terran Empire had transformed. Shipyards orbiting Earth, Mars, and the moons of Jupiter worked day and night, building warships equipped with the Martinez technologies. What had once been research stations and civilian hubs now produced weapons, shields, and engines at incredible speed. Captain Murphy, standing on the bridge of his new command, watched the activity through the viewport. The TES Retribution was the most advanced dreadnought ever built by human hands, 3 times larger than the Defiant and bristling with weapons. Quite a view, isn't it? Admiral Bennett said as she joined him on the bridge. Murphy nodded. 6 months ago, we had a handful of military vessels. Now we have a real fleet. And we'll need every ship, Bennett replied. Our long-range sensors detected the Vraxian counterattack force entering the outer solar system, a fleet 3 times larger than what we faced before. The news spread quickly through the ranks. Commander Wright, recently promoted, coordinated final evacuations of civilian populations to hardened shelters within the colonies. The people of the Terran Empire had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. Now it had arrived. We can't match them for numbers, Bennett told her gathered captains in the final briefing. So we won't try. We'll use Jupiter's gravity and its moons for cover. The Martinez long-range torpedoes will let us strike from behind natural shields. Murphy studied the battle plans. My task force will focus on their supply lines and smaller support vessels, hit-and-run attacks to confuse and divide their forces. Bennett nodded. The Vraxians follow strict military doctrine. They expect us to form a defensive line. They don't expect us to split our forces and attack from multiple vectors. The Vraxian armada entered Jupiter's orbit 3 days later. Massive warships, some nearly a kilometer long, moved in perfect formation. Their advance was methodical, exactly as Terran intelligence had predicted. They're scanning for our fleet near Earth, Murphy observed from the Retribution, hidden in the shadow of Ganymede. They expect us to make our stand there. Let's disappoint them, Bennett replied over the secure channel. All ships, execute battle plan Thunderbolt. The Terran fleet exploded into action. Ships hidden behind various moons and within Jupiter's rings emerged, firing the new long-range torpedoes. The weapons, designed to penetrate Vraxian shields at specific frequencies, struck the largest enemy vessels before they could respond. Meanwhile, Murphy led the Retribution and its strike force in quick attacks on the Vraxian fleet's flanks. Target their fuel carriers and ammunition ships, he ordered. Then withdraw before they can lock weapons. The Vraxian response was predictable but dangerous. They formed defensive clusters, combining their shield power to withstand Terran attacks. Their larger ships launched waves of fighter craft to hunt down Murphy's strike force. They're adapting. Commander Wright reported from her position coordinating colonial defenses. But slowly, their command structure still requires approval from their flagship before changing tactics. This delay gave humanity a crucial advantage. Bennett exploited it ruthlessly, shifting her attack patterns faster than the Vraxians could respond. When the aliens formed a shield wall, Terran forces targeted its edges. When they spread out, concentrated fire punished their exposed vessels. The battle raged for 3 days. Murphy's task force struck and vanished, reappearing elsewhere to hit vulnerable targets. Bennett's main fleet used Jupiter's moons as cover, emerging to fire devastating salvos before seeking protection again. By the 4th day, the Vraxian advance had stalled completely. Their losses mounted while their rigid command structure struggled to counter human tactics they had never encountered before. "They're pulling back," Wright announced, watching the tactical display with amazement. "They're actually retreating." Murphy watched the Vraxian ships withdrawing beyond Jupiter's orbit, not retreating, regrouping. "They need to report our tactics to their high command and develop new strategies." Bennett agreed. "This is a pause, not a victory. But we've shown them something important. Humanity won't be conquered easily." The Vraxian flagship sent a final transmission before jumping to faster-than-light travel. Admiral Bennett had the message translated and shared with all Terran forces. "You have earned the full attention of the hegemony." The message read, "Your resistance is noted. Your extinction is certain." Murphy looked around at his crew, seeing determination rather than fear on their faces. "I think we've just changed the rules of their game," he said quietly. "And they don't know how to handle it." 2 years had passed since the Vraxians delivered their ultimatum. The Terran Empire had successfully defended the solar system against multiple attacks, each larger than the last. Now, for the first time, humanity prepared to take the fight to enemy territory. Admiral Bennett stood on the bridge of her flagship, surveying the assembled Terran fleet. 200 warships, including 5 super-dreadnoughts, gathered at the edge of the solar system. It was the largest military force humans had ever created. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her communications officer announced. Bennett nodded. "Send the signal. Operation Liberation begins now." The target, Proxima Centauri, the nearest star system to Earth and home to a once independent civilization now enslaved by the Vraxian hegemony. Intelligence from the resistance movements there had been crucial in developing human tactics and technology. Captain Murphy, now commanding the TES Retribution, led the vanguard. His ship had been further upgraded with the latest Martinez technologies, making it the most formidable vessel in the fleet. "All hands to battle stations," Murphy ordered as the Retribution prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel. "We go in fast and hit them hard." The Terran fleet emerged from FTL on the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Immediately, they detected Vraxian defense platforms and a medium-sized garrison fleet. "They didn't expect us to attack them here," Commander Wright observed from her position as Murphy's first officer. "Their response is disorganized." Murphy smiled grimly. "Let's keep them that way. Launch strike teams to the primary control stations." Across the Terran fleet, small fast craft departed larger ships, each carrying special forces trained to disable Vraxian command and control systems. Colonel Ford, now leading all special operations, had developed these tactics based on their success in the solar system. The Vraxian defenders fought hard, but could not match the determination and surprise of the human attack. One by one, their defense platforms went dark as Terran forces gained control. On the 3rd day of the battle, something unexpected happened. As Murphy's forces approached the main Vraxian base on Proxima Centauri IV, the planet's enslaved population rose up in coordinated rebellion. "They're attacking the Vraxian overseers," Wright reported, watching sensor feeds from the planet's surface. "They've been waiting for this moment." The Proxima Centauri natives, a humanoid species with pale purple skin, had suffered under Vraxian rule for 15 years. Now they fought alongside human forces, their intimate knowledge of Vraxian installations proving invaluable. Back on Earth, Frank and Nicole Martinez continued refining their technologies. Their latest breakthrough was faster-than-light communications that gave Terran forces a significant advantage in coordinating attacks across multiple star systems. "Admiral Bennett," Frank called over the new communication system. "We're getting signals from other conquered worlds. They've heard about our attack on Proxima Centauri. They're asking for help to fight their Vraxian overlords." Bennett shared this news with her fleet commanders. "This is no longer just about defending Earth. This is about liberating all species subjected to Vraxian rule." The battle for Proxima Centauri lasted 2 weeks. When it ended, the Vraxian forces had been completely driven from the system. For the first time in over a decade, the native population was free. On the Retribution's bridge, Murphy watched as Terran medical ships descended to help the injured and repair the damage from the fighting. Among his crew was Sophia Martinez, daughter of Frank and Nicole, serving as a fighter pilot. Her squadron had destroyed 3 Vraxian cruisers during the battle. "What happens now, Captain?" Sophia asked, joining Murphy at the viewport. "Now the real war begins," he replied. "The hegemony never expected us to counterattack. They certainly never expected us to liberate one of their conquered worlds. Their whole empire is built on fear and the belief that resistance is futile." Reports soon confirmed his assessment. Throughout the sector, other conquered species began rising up against their Vraxian overlords, many using tactics learned from human resistance fighters. The Vraxian hegemony, for the first time in its history, found itself fighting defensive battles on multiple fronts. Their once unbeatable military was stretched thin, facing enemies who no longer feared them. The tide had turned. Humanity had moved from defending its home to leading the galactic revolution. 5 years after the Vraxian ultimatum, the war reached its final phase. The once mighty hegemony was crumbling from within as more and more subject species rose up against their oppressors. Inspired by humanity's example, conquered worlds turned their Vraxian technology and knowledge against their former masters. Admiral Murphy, recently promoted after captain's long service, stood on the bridge of the TES Retribution as it led the combined fleet toward the Vraxian homeworld. Ships from 7 liberated species flew alongside Terran vessels, united in purpose. "We're detecting heavy defenses around the planet," Commander Wright reported. "The Vraxians have recalled most of their remaining forces to defend their home." Murphy nodded. "As expected, this will be their final stand." Admiral Bennett's voice came through the communication system developed by the Martinez family. "All ships, maintain formation. Remember, our goal is not to destroy the Vraxian civilization, but to end their ability to conquer and enslave others." The battle that followed was the largest and most intense of the war. The Vraxians fought with desperate ferocity, their backs against the wall. Terran and allied ships pushed forward methodically, using tactics refined over years of conflict. On Earth, President Harrison and representatives from liberated worlds gathered to watch the battle unfold. Frank and Nicole Martinez provided real-time updates through their FTL communication network. "The Vraxian defenses are stronger than we anticipated," Frank reported, studying the incoming data. "But our allies from Proxima Centauri have found a weakness in their planetary shield grid." The Allied fleet concentrated fire on the identified weak point. After hours of bombardment, the Vraxian shields began to fail. Murphy's Retribution led a squadron through the gap, targeting military installations while carefully avoiding civilian centers. By the 3rd day of battle, Vraxian resistance began to collapse. Their rigid command structure, once a strength, became their greatest weakness when Allied forces captured key leadership bunkers. Without central direction, Vraxian ships fought individually, making them vulnerable to coordinated attacks. On the morning of the 4th day, High Commander Krelvox of the Vraxian fleet sent a message to the Allied forces. "We request terms for surrender." The war that had begun with a Vraxian ultimatum ended with humanity dictating terms to the defeated hegemony. Murphy and Bennett, along with leaders from other liberated species, met with Vraxian representatives in their capital city. "The Vraxian military will be disbanded," Bennett stated. "All conquered worlds will be freed. Your technology will be shared with all species for peaceful purposes only." The Vraxians, unused to defeat, had no choice but to accept. Their once vast empire had collapsed in just 5 years against an enemy they had gravely underestimated. 1 month later, representatives from 23 species gathered on Earth. President Harrison addressed the historic assembly. "Today we establish the Orion Concordat, an alliance of free worlds dedicated to mutual defense, peaceful cooperation, and the right of all sentient beings to determine their own destiny." Admiral Murphy, watching from the audience, felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The human race had not only survived, but had transformed the power structure of their corner of the galaxy. Quite a change from 5 years ago, Commander Wright said, now standing beside him as his equal rather than his subordinate. Murphy nodded. They thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would bow to threats. They never understood what humans do when backed into a corner. The Martinez family established an institute dedicated to sharing technology among Concordat members. Their daughter Sophia became one of its first directors, working alongside scientists from a dozen worlds. As representative of the Terran Empire, Admiral Bennett took a leading role in the Concordat's Joint Defense Force. Ships from all member species now patrol together, ensuring that no power could ever again threaten the freedom of any world. The species who had once delivered an ultimatum to humanity now worked alongside them as partners in the new galactic order. The Vraxians learned, perhaps the hardest way possible, what many before them had discovered. Threatening humanity was not just a tactical error, but a fundamental misunderstanding of the human spirit. The ultimatum had indeed backfired, changing not just Earth's destiny, but the fate of an entire sector of the galaxy.